Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army. Thank you for joining me and Jon on this video. Jon, it's pre-season, sort of. Well, some of the players have set off for the beach, but this is a busy time for some people in the club, the recruitment team, the scouts, and we're going to have a look at this squad, review it before we potentially add to it. How you doing, Jon? The season's gone. We're safe. Premier League again next season.
Yeah, fantastic. And what a different conversation we will be having if it wasn't. There's going to be probably a lot of stuff that we agree on, and also I'd imagine the fans will agree on as well on here. It'll be interesting to see what controversial opinions we can probably shake up on this one, but there's probably going to be a decent bit of turnover in the pre-season when it comes up, when the transfer window opens. But we're in the post-season as things stand. We can just bask in the glory of our season and be sorry that there is no football going on at the moment. But oh well, we've got a lot to look forward to.
Only about 60 days to go, though. You fans out there that are ready for Premier League football again, back in or coming in August. And make sure you subscribe to Cherries Red Army, hit the like button and use those comments on this video. How is this going to work then? Fortunately, someone set up a tier list for us in the tier maker. We're going to look at the current squad. We're going to look to see whether we should keep them, sell them, loan them, or end of contract. What does that mean for some of these players? And already, Jon, we do know that some of these players are going to go straight into these zones in the tier maker. But we're going to look at it, and it's going to be what we think the club should do, not necessarily what we think the club will do.
Yes, absolutely. We'll drop a few straight into end of contract as we get to them, but this gives us an opportunity to just give a little bit of a goodbye to those few players that will be leaving. Of some of which I'm sure you've looked already through that list and gone, well, that person's already gone. But yeah, we can have our little thank you on this video for them.
Let's get going then. Let's start with our captain. It's Neto. It's our goalkeeper. He signed another contract. Jon, he has spoken about really feeling in a positive place. He's been at clubs like Barcelona, but never really been a number one. And he has settled in. He got his chance against Wolves. He never looked back and arguably been player of the season. Neto, do we keep him or do we let him go?
No, we obviously keep him. I don't think that one's going to be too difficult. There's going to be a few that are going to be jumping straight into that keep section, and obviously he only recently signed a contract extension. He's going to be sticking around a while, hopefully, and he's been a fantastic acquisition on a free. Obviously, I think Barcelona just cancelled his contract to get him out of there, so we were able to pick him up for nothing. And when you look at the places he's been, he's played in some historic clubs, but it's very clear that he is just a player that is a goalkeeper that fits in the step below. So when you look at the fact that he's been a substitute at Barcelona, and I think it was Juventus was the other big club that he's been at, and basically just been a number two. The one step below that is the likes of, I think it was Fiorentina was the club that he was at for a while in Italy, and it was Sevilla or Villarreal. It was, again, one of those slightly step down Spanish clubs, but both of which have good European history. Like, he is an outstanding goalkeeper for us to have at the level of club that we are at within the Premier League. And if he keeps performing, I wouldn't mind giving him another extension if his next couple of years goes really well.
Yeah, and goalkeepers can go on for quite a while in their age with the type of player they are. I would like Neto to catch a few more balls next season, but he is a good goalkeeper. He brings a lot of attributes, and he'll be a Bournemouth player next season. We are sure of that. Now, the next goalkeeper, next player along, Jon, is Darren Randolph. Now, I think he's had his contract sort of extended again to 2024. I'm not sure if it was a short-term deal, but we definitely know it's gone to 2024. No appearances yet for Bournemouth, but he's a steady goalkeeper within the football game, played for clubs like West Ham. I mean, I just expect Darren Randolph to still be a goalkeeper for us next season. I don't think he's going anywhere, and he can add some experience, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's 36 now, so he's at the point of his career where I think he's comfortable with just being a third choice, which is what he is. And obviously, we're not going to be doing anything more with regards to, I'd imagine, giving him any extension or be looking to let him go. I think the club saw when Neto was injured, we only had really Travers and I think Will Dennis. I think he may have been on loan at the time, but we basically had Travers as backup. And whilst I do like having Travers as a number 2, you still need to have a third goalkeeper and someone that you can trust has experience that can come in and perform if necessary. And that's what Randolph will do. He's just an okay Premier League keeper. And that's perfectly good to have as a third choice. And if you've got someone that's happy to take that role, there's no reason to move him on.
So the next goalkeeper is Mark Travers, and this might create a bit of conversation, John, because Mark is on a long contract. He got that golden glove in the Championship, signed a brand new deal. We were really positive for him going into the Premier League season. It has been a bit of a tough season for him. I thought he did okay at Everton in that final day. We did lose, but he made some good saves. But I do hear some fans talking about potentially him going out on loan again to the Championship. And although I don't really dispute that massively, John, I just wonder, what does that mean long term for Mark Travers? Clearly sitting on the bench behind Neto is not going to do him any good either. But I'm also not sure that another loan move out to the Championship will do anything either. I am a bit undecided on this one. What's your thoughts?
I think this is all going to be based on what Travers wants. He's in a position where it kind of reminds me a bit of Freddie Woodman, if you remember, obviously, us taking him on loan from Newcastle, although he ended up being number 2 for us when we brought him in that promotion season, is a promising young goalkeeper that isn't going to be the number 1 for a Premier League side. And for him, either he accepts the position that he's in, or he goes out to try and get more game time. And with Freddie Woodman as using him as an example, he went for a number of loan signings before eventually deciding, I'm fed up of sitting on the bench for Newcastle. I'm going to go and get some permanent time. And I think he went to Preston permanent. Was it Preston permanently? Either way, he went to a Championship side permanently. And that's what Travers is probably going to be looking to do. I personally would keep him. I personally would keep him as number 2. I don't see any reason to loan him out, because if you do loan him out, you're going to have to get another goalkeeper in. He is our number 2. There's Randolph isn't going to overtake him on that. So this would all depend on Travers. Personally, I'd keep him. I'm very happy with him as number 2. But I see the argument as to why you'd send him out on loan, because Neto is probably roughly at the peak of his powers at 33. He's probably unlikely to. Well, he's not going to get another big move now, or it's very unlikely to. So in, say, 3 years when Neto's contract runs out, is Travers going to be willing to wait around for 3 years to just sit on the bench and not get much game time other than cup games? I don't know. It's all going to depend on Travers, because the club will definitely want to have him around.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be a difficult one. It's going to be one to keep an eye on. I personally keep him as well, I think, for next season. And let's see how it goes. I'm just not sure a loan move for him will change the situation massively. It'll give him game time, but ultimately he wants to try and prove himself at Premier League level, and that's where he's got to get to. But I see the argument that if he's sitting on the bench, he's not doing that anyway. So let's see what happens. But we're gonna put keep for Mark Travers. Let's move to defenders then, John. And this is where we start to talk about players that officially now are not even a Bournemouth player. Jack Stephens, end of contract. What a player he was coming in for us at times. He came in at the back end before the break, before the World Cup. And then he's had some really good spells after the World Cup, even in our bad moments or dodgy moments where we weren't picking up many wins. And then he didn't see out the season. He sort of fell back out of favour when Sabani came in. But the question mark is whether, I suppose, Southampton will let him re-sign for us, and whether he fits into whatever formation and identity we have next season. Do you think Jack Stacey will come back to Bournemouth? Jack Stephens.
Yeah, Jack Stephens. So I wouldn't be surprised if the club did attempt to sign him permanently. I think there was enough about him as a defender and as a no-nonsense defender, which meant that he never suffered from that real significant negative that you kept pointing out when we originally brought him in, Kirk, that Who Scored has his biggest negative is the fact that he makes a lot of mistakes leading to goals.
So did.
But it didn't happen. It didn't happen
No.
for us at all. And part of the reason was that he never messed around with it. He only really did that maybe once or twice. Was he made a poor pass? Other than that, it was rosette, or if it was the other end of the pitch, he played balls comfortably. For what Bournemouth are going to look to do, and for the quality of player that Bournemouth have at centre back in terms of ball players, that it seems like they're looking to go for when you look at Senesi, Zabani, Stevens doesn't fit for me. I don't think he fits. And if you're going to say, well, at least having a no nonsense defender is great as an option, we've already got one of them on the books. We've got a perfectly good, incredibly underrated no nonsense defender already on the books in Chris Mepham. So I really don't see the point in going for him at all. I think he definitely did a job while he was here. He didn't like blow me away like a lot of people kind of went, oh wow, this guy's actually really good. It's like, yeah, he was a decent Premier League player. He's nothing more. And whilst that's never a diss to say, yes, you were good enough for the Premier League. That's like almost the pinnacle of your sport. For me, he's not someone that I would look to re-sign.
I mean, he's out of contract in regards to the loan deal, shall we say?
Yeah.
And we're not really going to position him, are we? Because he's not officially our player, but I'm not sure I'd re-sign him. I think we're going to be looking for different heights now, and Southampton might want to keep him. I mean, they needed defenders, and they let a good defender go out to Bournemouth, and they're in the Championship, and they're probably going to want to keep Jack Stevens at Southampton in the Championship. So we'll put him in the end of contract. John, is that fair? Because officially he is out of end of loan.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct.
Moving on to another player, which will probably end up in the same category, but we'll talk about him, and that's Matthias Viña. And we are hearing that the club are trying to pursue a deal to sign him permanently. Previously, it was discussed with Roma that a deal could be looked at for 12.9 million, John, but the club are looking at trying to get a cheaper deal than that. I do like Matthias Viña. It all depends again on what type of formation we're going to play, whether we're looking at him as a fullback or a wing back. For the money we're talking about, I think we're going to need to spend more bucks at the top end of the pitch to try and get more goals in this team. If we're talking about 10, 11, 12 million and the deal can be done, sign him up, I say.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that in terms of, the options, I would have him as a keep. I suppose in terms of like, yes, he's out of contract, but we'd be looking to sort of sign him to keep him. I do agree with you, and there are definitely issues defensively in his game from what we can see so far. But he is a fantastic attacking option on that left-hand side. And what we have massively lost this season when Zamora was sort of dropped out of the team was any attacking impetus from fullback. And Viña really provides that. He does provide you a bit of a weakness as well, but I think we do have very capable centre backs now. So there is a trade-off to be had there. I think I totally agree with you. We would probably be looking to bring in another left back anyway, because we don't have any recognised left backs in the squad currently, apart from Kelly, who I don't really want to play a left back. So given that it's our list, I would say we don't have any left backs. So we need to sign two. And one of them would be great to be Viña, who in certain circumstances I think would be the starting left back / left wing back, but in other situations he's very definitely we're going to be looking at a more able defensive left back, more quality at left back. But I still think that if we can sort of haggle them down to like anywhere under 12 million, I think that's a bargain. So yeah, I'd definitely take him.
Should we think positively and just put him straight into keep and think that the club can get a deal done and we're going to have Matthias Viña in this squad for next season? Let's put him straight up there. Next player that we're going to talk about is Zabani, a player that did sort of get himself into the squad at the back end of the season. He played at Everton and a few other games. A player that shows good strength, John. He does seem to be the player that the club hoped he would be. A lot of money spent on him. He's going to be a keep. He's going to be part of the future plans. We're going to sort of build a spine through him, I reckon. And he's exciting and surely only going to get better, Sabani.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that along with Ouattara, he's got the longest contract in the club at the moment. Deal runs out not until 2028. So we've got him for 5 years. So a long time. yeah, it's a keep. It's an easy keep, obviously. Shame that we didn't see more of him last season. But to be honest, there's not much more to say. He looks like he's an incredibly promising young player with a lot, with what looks like could be quite a high ceiling. And I'm hoping we see a lot more of him next season. And I do think that him and Senesi will be, unless things change, as things currently stand, they are my preferred centre-back partnership going forward.
And although we want Bournemouth to become a bigger club in time, he is a good asset. Like you said, 2028, we have a contract for him. So very, very good for the club. So I know, John, you've spoken about the players being an asset, and we're letting some of these players run down contracts. We'll talk about a few in a moment. So really important that we get these deals, long contracts, and they're still not even at the peak of their career yet. Next player on the list is James Hill. Now, I can't say I know a lot about what James Hill has done at Hearts. I know I've scanned Twitter a little bit and there's been some performances, man of match performances. Hearts fans have just said he's absolutely fantastic. Yes, we're talking about the SPFL. James Hill was seen as a very good, promising player in the Championship. Not sure, John. Think it might need to be another loan move for James Hill, or do the club potentially look at him as maybe not being a player that can get himself into this first team in 2-3 years' time?
Yeah, I think it's definitely another loan. I think it needs to be at this point. It's interesting you say like Hearts fans love him, because I remember when his first game he put in a man of the match performance, and I think a lot of Bournemouth fans thought, oh, brilliant, he's going to kill it up there, and then he'll come back. I had a look before he came back into the news a little bit recently, because he was talking about maybe even going back to Hearts. When there was very little coverage on him, I had a look on Twitter and see if he was playing or anything like that. He was getting so much stick from Hearts fans. They were not pleased with him at all for a decent chunk of the middle of his loan period. So I think he's still got a lot to prove. Now, admittedly, he's gone from Fleetwood Town League One, and then he's gone up to the Scottish Premier League, which is barely a level above League One. So yeah. He needs, and he's not yet really proved himself massively in either situation. Well, he obviously proved himself enough for us to buy him from Fleetwood. So I would try and get him a Championship move, lower end Championship club where he's going to be required to do a lot of defending. But yeah, he definitely needs another loan move. I don't think he's ready at all to be a backup of the squad yet.
If there are any Hearts fans watching this, it's just banter, nothing personal. And do tell us what you do think about James Hill in the comments, though. Next player on the list. This is an interesting conversation, John. This was our captain at the start of last season, Lloyd Kelly, who I think has a contract until 2024. Is he a left back? Is he a centre back? Is he playing in a back three? Is he playing in a back four? Who knows? Maybe all the answers will come very, very soon next season. Don't know about this one. I know I've really tried to back Lloyd Kelly a lot. I think he had some good performances in those losses we had at the back end of the season. Don't know, because I think Lloyd Kelly maybe a year or two ago, John, maybe had aspirations to go on a bit and maybe go and play for a bigger club. I don't think there'll be a lot of clubs call him, but he must be confused about what his position is within this side and this squad at the moment.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. Because having a look, I can see he's only got a year left on his contract, and we're getting to points with players that definitely have decent sell-on value, where Bournemouth need to do better at cashing in on their assets when possible. I think one of the things that I think was one of the worst tendencies about Eddie Howe was basically he wanted to keep everyone in his squad every year, and sometimes you need to know when to refresh and change things up a bit. For Lloyd Kelly, I would like to keep him, but only if he signs a contract extension. If he's only going to be here another year and then he leaves on a free, I'd rather sell him now. Because for me, he's not one of the first choice centre backs. If we play in a back three, he's the first choice left centre back quite comfortably. I put Senesi in the middle and Zabani on the right. But in a back four, he provides good cover at left back, very good cover at centre back, but he's not my first choice in either of those positions. So if he's not going to sign a contract extension, I'd rather get the money for him now. Yeah. So this one all depends. I still think I would prefer to keep him because he is good enough he is easily good enough as a Premier League centre back. I've got occasional issues with one or two things he does, but generally I'm very pleased with him, and I think he has actually impressed me at times this season when I have been on his back before. But yeah, when we're looking at these things, I think it really does depend sometimes on are we going to get any value from them now, or can we get value from them later? And Bournemouth need to stop losing players on a free, or only losing players that are just not good enough anymore. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I personally I try and keep. What do you think, Kirk?
Yeah, I think I would like to keep Lloyd Kelly, but I do agree it's all about the contract. If he's not going to sign a new contract, then we cash in. Where we cash in, who's potentially interested? There will be clubs interested, maybe not at the heights that they were a year or two ago. But if he signs a new contract, he is an asset. He is a good defender. Yes, some parts of his game need to improve as well. Maybe his speed of passing and his percentage of passing completion, but I would like to keep Lloyd Kelly if he signs a new contract. So that's a fair argument in that. But do tell us in the comments if you disagree. Would you cash in now on Lloyd Kelly? Maybe one or two will. Next player, then, shall we go back to the tier list? And it is Marco Senesi, a player that's grown and got better throughout the season, had a bit of a shaky start, trying to adapt to the country, trying to adapt to the club. This will be good that we've survived this season, John. He'll only get better again. Linked with clubs like Man City, not sure about that right now, but a player that definitely, again, we can build the spine through in our new identity that we're hopefully looking to build.
Yeah, for me, as much as I haven't seen enough of Zabarnyi yet, and then my opinion may change, for me, he's our best centre back. I think, as things currently stand, as an all-round game, his strength, he's got that South American dog in him. El Gladiador, it does not shy away from throwing his body into tackle, and all those centre backs, Bournemouth centre backs that have really sort of tugged at your heartstrings, and we've really taken onto, are all the ones that will dive in front of a shot to block a shot, and always and tend to pick up a goal now and again in the season as well. You think of Cookie and Ake. Senesi has done that this season. He's got a couple as well himself. It's an easy one. Like I mentioned, him and Zabarnyi are my preferred centre-back partnership. And as much as I think the links with Man City are a bit early, give it another year. I really do think that we will be asking for a significant fee. I think if he continues to show what he can do in the league, and his ability on the ball is the thing that will excite the biggest sides, we'll be asking for 40 million upwards for him, I reckon. We'll be looking to match that Ake sale.
Right, next one should be a quick one. Jack Stacey, end of contract. He is off to Norwich City. Not really a surprise, John. I do feel a little bit sorry for Jack over the last few years. It's not really worked out. I think there are some good attributes that Jack could add to the team. Again, defending was probably a little bit of a weakness for him. I do feel that maybe there wasn't much belief in him through three managers, not just one, and that's probably knocked his confidence. Going to Norwich City in the Championship, for me, is a good move to rebuild his confidence. So just a short opinion on Jack Stacey, who will be leaving the club and going to Norwich City.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can do a swap deal with Norwich and bring Max Aarons the other way. I really like Jack Stacey going forward. I was when a lot of people didn't give him any time of day, I really wanted him to play more games because we weren't doing enough going forward from right back. And what he does have is pace, enthusiasm, and as much as he didn't have quite the end product at all times, which is another cross against him. You're right. Defensively, at times he was quite poor. I really liked him. I would like to have seen more of him, but Adam Smith was always the first choice, and I wish Jack Stacey all the best, and I think that he really could do very well at Norwich next season.
You said Adam Smith, so let's just move Adam Smith next in line, who has a contract extension until 2024, a player that's played a lot of games last season and has been a great player and a great servant for us. Adam Smith, surely, John, goes into keep, although I do think this might be his last season as an AFC Bournemouth player.
Yeah, I agree. I think that whilst we were talking about making sure that the club do sell on when there is value and whatnot, not that Adam Smith doesn't have any value, but I think he's reaching the age where it's sort of like this is probably going to be his last Premier League season, I would imagine. If he was to move on from Bournemouth, I don't see him getting to another Premier League club. And he is, by the time he'll leave, I'm pretty sure he'll have cracked up a testimonial. I think he's been in 9 seasons in total now. And I think that the kind of scapegoating that's been made of him this season, I think, has been completely ridiculous by a lot of people on social media. And hey, I was sort of digging at him a bit before the scapegoating started because I saw what he was doing statistically. But to say that to really dogpile on him in the way that people have has just been ridiculous. He's just a very capable player. And whilst I think that next season we should be looking we should be definitely, I mentioned Max Aarons, bringing him in, we should be looking at a right back to sort of push Smith to second choice, because Smith does a job now, but he's not getting forward in the way that he used to. He's getting older. He doesn't have the ability to get up and down the pitch. There's no reason to move him on. With a year left of his contract, I'd want him to stick with us, provide that, he's the last one left of that first promotion to the Premier League team, and now that Junior's moved on. So yeah, he's such an important part of this club, and I do think that there's a lot of fans that just seem to just forget that people get older, things change, but he's still such a vital member of this squad. You've got to keep him around.
Do you know what I couldn't believe? In the last month, and we didn't win any games, but it was almost the best of Adam Smith. It almost rolled back the years, how forward he was getting. A shame we didn't have anyone in the box to head of the ball, because the last couple of games, he was sticking them right in the box within the first 30 minutes. But what you noticed is he was being pulled off then later in games, maybe due to lack of energy or lack of, losing that energy in the game through being up and down. But I just wonder where that's been all season, John.
Well, it's because Lloyd Kelly's been put at left back recently, I think. And there were moments earlier on in the season where he did get forward, and it's the way that O'Neill has planned his defence this season. Only one of the fullbacks gets forward, and when Zamora was left back the whole first half of the season, Smith never got forward at all, and except for under very rare circumstances. He's the only person that's crossed the ball this season. You look at Bournemouth stats, and there's like nothing. No one's crossed the ball this season apart from Adam Smith. He's actually, I think he's got the most passes into the penalty area apart from Lerma. He's certainly got the most crosses into the penalty area this season. It's something like that, because he has got forward at times, but he's just played pretty much every minute. So it's been quite incredible as well for Smith to keep going that well.
Yeah, and I think he got the assist for the Kiefer Moore goal at home for Kiefer Moore's header.
Spurs. Yeah.
Against Spurs. Yeah, absolutely. Right, 2 more defenders to go then in this tier list. Let's go with Chris Mepham. Also, I think signed an extension on his contract in this season. Might be wrong, but it runs until 2025. Chris Mepham is a player that's definitely grown. Those moments where he struggled at Brentford in that first championship season, he's kicked on. He's been a really good player for us. Didn't let us down at all last season. Can't think of one game. Yes, I can. Man City, but I'll let him have it. He didn't follow the runner. But apart from that, John, he came in, he did a job, he worked hard, he went out the team, he come back in, and that was his season. When he came in there, he always did a job. I'd keep Chris Mepham for next season, 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is that when he didn't follow the run? Is that Man City away right at the start? Yeah, that was Gundogan as well that he didn't follow. So it's not like he's failing to follow one of the most biggest clutch players there is in the entire football game of football at the moment. But okay, he doesn't follow that run. That's basically the only mistake I can think he's made all season. He's been the most unheralded player, I think, of our squad. Every time, he gets a little bit of a knock and he gets pushed out and then Stevens comes in. Stevens doesn't really make a mistake. Was solid, and then Mepham can't get back in again. But then as soon as he's called back in, he's the best defender on the pitch. So I've said this 1,000 times now. He's no longer being asked to run the game. He's no longer being asked to play the passes that he was doing when he was in the Championship for a while and when Eddie was in charge. He's not making mistakes on the ball anymore, and he's now looking like such a good defender. And I mentioned that I don't think he's the first choice anymore, and Mepham himself may look to say, God, I keep getting dropped and not getting back in, and I'm not going to be starting this season. I want to go play regular game time. In which case, we'll ask for some money for him, and if we get it, I'll say all my best wishes to you. But for me, he is such a capable option as a defender. No nonsense. I definitely keep him.
And our final defender in this tier list, keep, sell, loan, end of contract, is Ryan Fredericks. Might need to check the contract, actually, John, but I think it runs until 2024.
Yeah, another
yes,
year.
it does.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, when we bought him, well, we got him on a free. I wasn't convinced by it, John. His injury record in the last few years has not been great. Your appearances tell you that for West Ham, but it was a free. I was like, okay, well, let's just get him then. Let's just see what happens. I think he had a few moments coming off the bench. I think he was in that 3-2 win against Nottingham Forest, but a player that struggled to get fit, just like he did at West Ham, potentially did at Fulham. And I don't know, John, I'd be happy just to let him go. I mean, we need another fullback. We need another right back to push Adam Smith. Do we need Ryan Fredericks? Do we try and cash in? The problem is whether you're going to be able to cash in and actually, flog him on.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 30. He's younger than me. But
very younger than me. I want to put him in sell, Yeah, I'm not sure how many buyers would be out there, but I am tempted.
The thing is that you don't need 3 right backs. And we definitely would be looking to bring in a new right back. We absolutely have to. If I could get money for him, I'd sell him. Yeah, definitely. Do I think we will? No. I think he'll be at the club. He kind of almost embodies Parker. I think almost because he's very clearly a Parker signing because he played with him for a while as well. And he's been injured for 90% of the season. When he's played, he had one great 45 minutes against Forest. But other than that, he's barely played. And when he has played, he hasn't looked necessarily good enough. He's looked okay. I remember for a while I had a bit of a vendetta on him because I thought basically everything he did was rubbish. And then he put in a good few tackles and I changed my mind. But he's still barely Premier League quality when he's on the pitch, I think. And he's barely ever on the pitch. So I don't see any reason. Like, if we could get any money at all for him, heck, $500,000, sell him to, heck, I don't know, Luton, pay 250k for him. Look, if we could get any money for him, I'd take the money for it because I do think that there's no point in having him on the wages as things stand. I don't like saying this about players to sort of say just go because heck, if he could get fit, if he could play a full season, you never know, you might see something decent out of him. But for now, there's nothing to show that you could do that. So yes, sell.
The options there. I definitely think we need to cash in. We're up to the defenders. We completed the goalkeeper and the defenders, John. Reckon we should close this video out. What do you reckon? And go into a part 2?
Yeah, I think we don't want to be sat here for an hour and a quarter. So I think there's more midfielders and strikers. So it'll be a bit longer in a part 2. But I think we'll cut it here for now.
So why don't you tell us what you think so far in the comments? Do you agree, disagree? Tell us, and we'd love to read them. And we're going to come back to you with part 2, where we're going to start on the midfielders. So subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next one. Up cherries.
Up the cherries.